let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 7. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 2. Well, verse 7, verse 1 and 2. That's on 1428.
What verse?
Verse 1 and 2, chapter 7, verse 1 and 2.
Now concerning the things about which you wrote, it is well for a man not to touch a woman, yet because of prevalence of fornication, let each man have his own wife, and each woman have her own husband. Okay,
so that's again to the Christian congregation. That's one more scripture. 1 Timothy chapter 2. That's on 1480. 1 Timothy chapter is actually chapter 3, 1481. And again, talking about the Christian congregation and the men in the congregation that would take the lead. Notice their qualifications. Would you like to read verse 1 and 2 of chapter
3? That statement is faithful. If any man is reaching out for an office of overseer, he is desirous of fine work. The overseer should therefore be irreprehensible, a husband of one wife, moderate in habits, sound in mind, orderly, hospitable, qualified to teach.
Okay, that's it. And the point is in verse 2, a husband of one wife. So again, in the gospel account, Jesus, he did. He instituted monogamy back, that a husband is to be one wife. So now that the concubine.
I mean, would it be fair to say that Jehovah made provisions for rape? Because, I mean, say an instance of like a spoil of warfare. You know, they took a woman that already had a husband, and she was a slave girl, and then they took her as a concubine.
Once Jesus came on the scene, there was no more.
Yeah, but I'm saying when God was making provisions. I mean, would he? I mean, he did make provisions for rape.
I know when the law was to make provisions. If a woman was raped and she hollered out, there was penalty.
Yeah, but
no matter who she was.
Yeah,
but she was a foreigner.
So, I mean, what if she was taken as concubine and she was in a town that had been overtaken, and she was somebody else's wife that and she was a slave girl, and they decided to take her as a concubine.
In most cases, what I've read, either the husband was killed or he was taken as a slave also.
Yeah, but say they were both taken as slaves, and the slave owner took her as a concubine, and she didn't want to be.
Okay. Here, notice what it says. Ecclesiastes chapter 8. Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and verse.
What page is that?
879.
Okay.
You read verse 9, chapter 8 and verse 9.
All this I have seen, and there was an applying of my heart to every work that has been done under the sun during that time that man has dominated man to his injury.
What has man done?
Dominated man to his injury.
See, so it wasn't Jehovah. That's what I said. Once Jesus came on the scene, all of that stopped.
But he made provisions for that.
But who was doing it? Mankind. But they the one that were.
But I mean, but when it was happening, God was making provisions for it.
Well, it's like because you can look at the all the people at that time, and
right.
That's what was happening. Now, Israelites, they were given the laws. They were taught how they supposed to be, what they supposed to do. And any type of using the violence over the people they had was not acceptable by God.
Yeah, but that's...
If they were taken, let's say, and if they were not, let's say if they would say no, they want to be slave, they want to be doing just this, I would say that the law didn't allow the man to take them and have relation with them.
But there's nothing saying anything about unwilling concubines.
Well, we might look for some scripture if we find some scripture, but
just
you want to keep in mind, because they knew, they were taught the law. They knew if they go over the board, they're going to be punished. They're going to be sinning. So see how Jehovah was teaching them after hundreds of years. Here he is choosing the nation that he wants them to be an influence on others of the good conduct, of the goodness, that they can say that God is Jehovah. It's in Deuteronomy or Exodus 33 where it says that he said, I chose you. I'm going to teach you, and you're going to be example for all the people, for all the nations, so they can come and get to know your God, the one who's teaching you those things. So we know that they were taught to do right. If they made mistake, if they followed the law always to the point, we know not, because it says over and over, and they were punished for it. They were given to other nations in the wars. They became slaves of Babylonians, and because God was teaching them, you have to treat properly the others. And Jesus said all those laws that they were given in details are closing in 2 commandments. And that is, we can read that in Matthew 22.
See, that's the pattern. That's why I'm saying, just to hear that.
Yeah, we will see.
I couldn't see an Israelite, if a woman saying she didn't want to be a concubine, he tried to rape her and she screamed out, he was going to get punished because of what we read right now.
Yeah, because they're supposed to be an example of the nation that they are. The people are guided by God, and God blesses them for doing good. So in 22:37, that was 22 Matthews and verse 37 and 38, and that is Jesus is answering.
Yeah, when we read 36 also.
Yeah, because see, they were trying to trick Jesus. They were, Pharisees, Sadducees. They were trying to trick Jesus. They were giving all those questions. So they asked him a question. You can go ahead and
36 through 40.
Okay. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? He said to him, you must love Jehovah your God with all your heart and with your whole soul and with your whole mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. The second, like this, is this: you must love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments the whole law hangs, and the prophets.
Okay, so what would the whole law mean?
Let me read that again to myself. I'm not sure what the whole law is.
We've been talking about it.
Oh, the whole law, with the new law?
The Mosaic law.
Oh, okay.
That's what Jesus is saying.
Okay.
Remember we said he was a tutor. This law was a tutor leading to Christ.
Okay.
So the Mosaic law, now who would the prophets be? Who would the prophets be?
The prophets, I don't know.
It would be all the prophets at Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Jonah, Micah. All of these ones. That's what they were trying to establish, the pattern. Like we said, the pattern.
Okay.
I can't even imagine, again, It does is I'm cringing inside to even think of that a woman was getting raped and she would scream out. And somebody would, that's why you would scream, so somebody could hear it. That person was going to be put to death.
And there are scripture about that too.
Yeah.
I know when you say it, there are scriptures, exactly what you're saying. And
Okay.
yeah. So see, I think it's in the base of it, it's love. You know, if you love your neighbor as yourself, you're not going to steal from him, you're not going to hurt him, you're not going to take the wife, you're not going to take anything of theirs because you love them. You want for them the best as you want for yourself. You're not going to become jealous. You know, you're going to be forgiving. You know? So it's like the whole law that they were taught. But why they were taught the law? Because the time passed. They didn't know anymore what's good, what's bad. You know, what it's the God's standard. So that's why those specific laws were given, so they can learn that. I always say, like, if you know the account of the Garden of Eden, you know, Adam and Eve, perfect condition and everything what God created, they were the last created. Everything was created already for them. So now they come to the picture, and they created the way that they can see everything, hear, smell, all that creation that they actually can see the wisdom and love.
Yeah.
In it, you know, we created differently, you know, with the taste of different food and all that, and in the color we can see, and all the, you know, the touch, the different, all those things, to be fully aware of our surroundings.